Sweet. All right. So today we've got a special guest with us, a good friend of mine, and somebody who we just did a workout with and raised some awareness for. His name's Jerry. So Jerry, if you want to just introduce yourself, put you on the spot straight away and hear what you've got to say and a bit about your mission.
Yep. My name's Jerry. 41. Currently in South Australia Police. And I've suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder as a result of my service.
Mm-hmm.
And recently did Workout for Awareness, which was basically my mission of completing that was to raise awareness for mental illness and suicide prevention.
Okay, yeah. And we did the workout here and I really enjoyed it. If you're out there, Quinton, I beat you by 5 reps. So that was a good battle because it was like right at the last run. There was a run and we came back in for burpees, right?
Yeah.
And he got in on the run before I did. And then I looked over at him and he was like just gasping for air. Like,
yeah, nice.
And I thought, all right, I'm going to get him. And just snuck in there and squeezed out a few extra burpees above him. So,
good work.
Yeah,
bragging rights.
Yeah, I was happy about that. But overall, I don't think my score was that good. But it was a great workout and had a lot of fun. So
good.
So yeah, we worked together quite a few years ago. So I used to be in the police now 6 or 7 years ago. It's gone very fast. But yeah, it was a lot of fun and made a lot of good friends and also had a lot of great experiences. But I also had quite a few traumatic experiences as well, which is quite common among a lot of police, but it's also something that isn't really spoken about too much. It's becoming broader and more aware, but people are pretty shy to raise these things and talk about them. Yeah. Do you know any reason why that might be?
I think it's probably a myriad of things. I think probably first and foremost, people just think that it's going to affect their career.
Yeah.
Being in a environment such as the police where you're carrying a firearm and dealing with the public a lot of the time, people are just worried that as soon as they say they have some sort of mental illness or struggling mentally, that they might have their firearm taken away from them.
Yeah.
You know, and that could possibly be the case, and
Mm-hmm.
it was the case with me. But you know, I suppose part of what I was doing was I wanted to let people know that just because you stick your hand up and say that you have a mental illness,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, your firearm might get taken away from you, but it's not a life sentence. It doesn't mean that that's never going to come back to you.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm back operational now, so I suppose I'm proof of that.
That you can come back and
that you can come back.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So you know, that's one aspect of it, I suppose. Another aspect is people talk about the stigma of mental illness and what other people are going to think about it. And I think for me personally, my opinion is that the stigma often is with the person themselves.
Yeah.
And they probably worry more about what other people are going to say in their own mind more than what actually people will talk about it and talk negatively about it. Okay. So for me, a big thing with me when I got like at my worst and ended up going off of work, I never really made a secret of what was happening and
Mm-hmm.
was quite happy to talk to people about it and would actually instigate conversations to talk about it because, you know, often if people don't know the full story, they'll fill in the gaps for themselves.
Yeah.
And the gaps that they fill in normally are worse than what the actual truth is.
That's right.
So for me, I got on the front foot.
Yeah.
Had those conversations with people, explain what was going on, and when I did that, then people were really understanding, and you know, you get a lot of support from that as well. The power's in your vulnerability, they say. So you know, by doing that, being vulnerable, I was able to take a bit of that power back, and you know, it definitely helped with not at that point in my recovery, but down the track with my recovery, thinking that people weren't talking badly about it.
Yeah. Well, that is one of the things I think is a bit of a concern is, you know, reputationally in the police, you know, it is a community of people, and if you're struggling or if something happens and you get a bad reputation, it can affect your career, and it can also make you feel like you can't do your job as effectively.
Yeah.
And it can be tough from that point of view, but that's why it's good to have those conversations, because you end up meeting the right people that you want in your circle. Because if people are talking trash, or they're just obviously not really emotionally developed themselves, or they haven't had a few experiences to the point where they realize, hey, look, we're all here together giving it a go, and to try to drag others down is just obviously not the way do things in a job like that where you just need a lot of support. So it's good to have those conversations, because you end up finding those people that will become lifelong friends as well.
Yeah, that's right. And, sort of along the lines of what you're saying there, I just thought as well, I had the attitude that if my mates or anybody, has a negative sort of reaction to what I'm going through, then they're not people that I want in my life anyway.
That's right.
So I think that's important to keep in mind too.
Yeah. And for me, when I found the job to be quite stressful, but it was like, it's okay. Like, you just kind of deal with the situations, and you deal with, arresting volatile and violent offenders, and you put yourself out there, and you actually, the problem is you don't realize how traumatic something's going to be until it happens. And so you'll continue to work, and then you just keep putting yourself into situations where you go, I can deal with this, I can arrest this person, or I can quell this crowd that's getting a little bit out of control. And then something will happen, which was what happened to me, where I got surrounded by over 100 people that wanted to get me because I had arrested somebody else, and it didn't go too well at all. And through that experience, I was stuck for about 15 minutes, and I submitted to the idea that I was going to die that night. And I actually thought to myself, well, this is it. This is the time. This is where it comes to an end. And I genuinely believed that. And because it was quite a strong possibility that a drunken mob was going to lynch me, basically. And I thought that I didn't realize that those situations could happen to a police officer. And then once it's happened, it taints you. It changes your perception of life. It changes your perception of yourself, and you carry that with you after that. And so once that experience has gone through you, where you think like, okay, well, this is it. This is coming to an end. It really, really affects your whole outlook, and it affects, you continue to be re-traumatized, because you have to keep going to situations and scenarios that are of a similar nature. Yeah. And it keeps aggravating things, and if you don't talk about it, it just stays buried. So for myself, I personally put my hand up, and I ended up talking about things, and that also started to lead to the transition for me to leave the police, and I was able to work on other ventures such as this gym and another gym, and it got to the point where I saw that I had the opportunity to leave.
Yeah,
and
good.
I took that because I just felt like I wasn't happy. I wasn't feeling relaxed or enjoying the job or the reasons for why I started it. And I thought, hey, I'll take the opportunity to try something different. And I'm really glad I did, because being able to help people here in the TRG community and share my message, which is, training is a fantastic way to have an outlet for mental health. That's one of my biggest missions, is to share that with people. And I really like being able to share that with people. But yeah, now people say I hand out burpees instead of speeding fines for punishment. So
you're the burpee Nazi.
Yeah, the burpee king.
Yeah.
So how about yourself? Like, how have you found training and working out to be your exit or your opportunity to express kind of, pent up stress and frustration?
Oh, it's been pivotal in my recovery, and still with the maintenance of my mental health.
Yep.
When I was at my worst, I really was struggling even to get out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
And I took small steps over time then to increase the challenge of things that I did within my day. And when I was able to get out and train, I felt like I felt a whole heap better.
Mm-hmm.
So I built up that habit then of making sure that I trained every day,
mm-hmm.
and that then set me up then to have that positive mental mindset for the rest of the day. And as you know, mindset is everything. You can look at the same scenario from two different perspectives, from a positive and a negative.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at it, anything positively, then you're much better off for it, and it's going to change the whole way that you deal with situations. So for me, keeping that positive mindset as a result of training really got me on track. And now if I don't train, I can definitely feel that it doesn't bode well with me. I need to have that release of energy and anxiety and all the rest of it. And the best way to do that is hard physical work, doing hard things with mates or even by yourself. And this is why CrossFit gyms are great and TRG is good because you've got the community of people around you and you're all doing hard stuff together, so you bond together.
Yeah, that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so for me, if I ever get like a message from somebody particularly alluding to how it's helped them deal with their stress, their anxiety, or mental health on any level, and they say, hey, this has really changed the game for me, that's more rewarding to me than anything else.
Yeah, I bet.
So for me, when I see that from a client, I think, hey, this is more important than anything. So and it also gives me a reminder of why I'm doing it as well. So from the day-to-day stress that we all get from running a business or just life, when you get a message that people's lives are changing, it makes me realize, okay, well, let's focus on those things, because that's the best way to really help people and also help myself. So I'll have a shoot over to Brendan, because he's just sitting here all quiet. Just that's unusual for you, Brendan.
Oh, I mean, compared to what you guys have gone through, I've led a blessed life. Like, I can't complain. Like, my worst day is probably your guys' best day. Like, in the grand scheme of things, like, I can't relate. There's no way, I've never been put in that situation. So there's no way I could possibly relate, but I look up to you guys, because I think if we don't have guys and girls like you out there doing this, well, then we all fall apart. So we need it. And it picks certain people to shoulder this burden. And the fact that you guys speak out speaks volumes about who you are as people. And it's always the people you don't necessarily pick. One of a book that I'm reading by an Australian cricketer, Adam Gilchrist. I absolutely love Gilly. He looked like he loved every single moment of it. You wouldn't expect that he was in tears before he went out to bat.
Wow.
Because he thought his career was a fraud. Even though he spent 7 years playing Test cricket, arguably one of our best keepers, arguably one of our best batsmen, Freddie Flintoff got him out for a duck, and he believes that his life's been a fraud. And it's like, wow, if it can happen to that guy who had it all, it can happen to absolutely anyone. Pressures of international cricket is, nothing compared to what you guys actually feel like, fearing for your life compared to someone getting you out in something that doesn't really matter, is something completely different. And that's why I've got so much respect for service people. And the only thing that I can do is be a mate and be there. That's the only thing that I can do, and listen. I can never say, I know how you feel, because I simply don't. I don't. There's no way I can relate to it. I can't even put anything in comparison. There's no way I could do that. But all I can do is hear you out, listen, and then change topic if it needs to happen. And that's the only thing that I can really do. And provide training to provide a safe environment, and also a non-judgmental environment. Because at the end of the day, hell, I look up to servicemen and women. I think what they do. I think we're in a fantastic country, and it's because of people like you guys. People have lost their lives. I think it's a great thing.
I appreciate that. And it was... I think that's the thing as well, that I think that there could be some degree of maybe even better training. I know it's very difficult for people to really train and create a good culture in the police. Like, it's not like they're not trying. But from my point of view, it's just, I think that there could be, I don't know what it's like now, but more of a proactive measure and step to seek people out and say, hey, we actually need to talk to you and we need to take you aside, rather than somebody saying, no, I'm fine. But then it's hard, how far in do you pry to the person, because they might be fine. It just seems like sometimes there should be a clearer kind of forward approach to people, that once they've been subjected to something that's a little bit unusual, and there's the possibility that their life, or they feel that their life was, about to be taken from them, that there's a proactive approach to get around them. And because if it's not brought up, it goes from that moment to then weeks, months, years of the sleepless nights, the anxiety, the depression, and then you have more and more compounding experiences that build on that initial one that may be the catalyst for it really developing into an issue. And then once you kind of lock into this mode of, well, I'm just not going to talk to anybody about it at all, everything's in your own mind, and then it just gets worse and worse, and it impacts your own relationships with your family, with your partner, with friends, and everything just seems to really get bottled up and quite problematic. So what advice, like if somebody's listening, whether they're a police officer, service, or even not, because you can also get traumatized in corporate workplaces. You know, there's a lot of bullying, and you know, each person has got their own levels of tolerance, and there can be stress and trauma anywhere. How do you think? Do you think it's the conversation and training, or is there any other things? Like, obviously it's a huge issue and there's a lot of things we can do, but what do you think the kind of, like, say, your 3 major steps that somebody should take where they're like, I'm just lost, what can I do to fix this?
Good question.
Yeah.
And I'll probably go back a little bit
and
just hit on something that you said as well, and in response to Brendan, was like, just because myself and Winston have experienced something traumatic, it doesn't mean that other people don't suffer as well. Like, people can suffer traumatic incidents in everyday life, and you know, people just have general stress of life, and whether you're in the service or not, I think, you know, things can affect people differently. So I don't think that, like, I'm just a civvy or whatever. That's not the case at all. I think, you know, it can touch anyone. And you made another good point in there as well, is that you know, if it can happen to these guys, it can happen to anyone. And that was a big part of me talking out as well, is that you know, I hope that I had a fair amount of respect within the police, and people sort of thought that I could look after myself and look after my mates. And so when, you know, I did fall over, for want of a better term, I wanted people to realise that, you know, mental illness doesn't discriminate, and you could get the biggest, baddest, toughest looking dude that ends up suffering a mental illness. It doesn't matter who you are, it can affect people no matter who you are. So that's just those points there. But to answer your question, I think probably the most important thing is definitely early intervention. If you touched on it in that question as well, was that for police or military members, or even the local service station attendant, if they get exposed to some sort of a traumatic experience, whether it be on the job or off, I think it's important to touch base with them as soon as you can afterwards, and, you know, give them maybe a few tools and about how to deal with what they might be expecting, and to educate them a little bit about what might happen in the time preceding that event. And, you know, we had that training in the police, but until you go through it, you're not really sort of aware of it, and you might, because of the trauma that you've gone through, you might not be aware of it yourself anyway. So I think it's important to also educate family and friends. And look out for the signs, and, you know, ask the questions, are you okay, and all the rest of it. Secondly is that not to worry too much about the stigma or what anyone else thinks, because the sooner that you do get that help, if you are suffering, the easier it's going to be to come back from it. I think the reason why I suffered so much when I did was that it was actually almost 2 years between my incident to the time that I went off for work, and I suffered in silence for a long time. And it didn't even hit me immediately after the event. It wasn't until, you know, months afterwards that I started noticing changes. And then just thought it was part of the job, and didn't necessarily think anything more of it. So you need to be getting on the front foot with those sorts of things, and not brushing under the carpet, because it's not going to get better by itself. So seek that professional help. And then thirdly, I suppose, there comes a point where you just have to look after yourself and not worry about anything else. And, you know, when you're in the worst of it, it's all about survival at times. So you need to do what you can to survive. And if that means going to hospital or going on medication or whatever it is, you know, people shouldn't think anything less of you, and you shouldn't worry about what people are going to think. And if they do think badly of it, then, like we said before, they're not people that you want in your life anyway. Yeah,
that's right. And I think that those are the 3 great points. I really like those. And I think that, you know, there are services available, mental health plans for people who think that they can't afford counselling, or that it's out of their reach, or it's too difficult to organise. You just go to your GP, let them know that you're really struggling. And a lot of the times, well, I can't really speak broadly and generally, but I've heard from some people that it's this immediate default to medication, or that's pushed a lot. And while I think that going on medication is better than suffering, you've also got to look at those other opportunities as well, such as sleep hygiene, training, and also counselling. So for me, I think those are three really important things. Good sleep hygiene, not too much, not too little, just a good routine. Really difficult with shift work. Have your training in place, whether that's even walking every day, just to mix it up and clear your mind. And then go and get some professional help. Go see a counsellor. Go and get a mental health plan, and you can get ones where they do a bulk billing if you've got short of funds. And being able to talk to somebody who's there for that purpose, to be able to express where you're at and put something in place for you to change it up. Because once you have been affected and changed by something, there is no real going back to the person you were before that. Yeah. It's a new journey that you're on, and if you navigate it well with good people around you, it actually becomes a blessing, because you learn so much about life, about yourself, and your capacity to love other people and be empathic for other people's problems expands so much. And for me, the journey that I've been on since some of those experiences into getting out of the police has led to some of the greatest blessings of my life. Some of the most difficult experiences that I've faced, having to come to terms with things about who I am as a person and issues that I face and weaknesses that I have. But when you have that conversation, you allow yourself to be who you are and just be true to that, and then just go, hey, look, we're all a work in progress. There's no one is strong enough to be able to overcome all things. And that's why I think helping each other is so important. And I love that workout for awareness that we did here, because again, it was like the idea behind what we were doing was to train together and to look after each other, and to think about how serious this problem is and how it does affect so many people. So particularly moving on to that concept of suicide, it's quite a sensitive issue, and I've seen quite a fair bit of it in my life with some personal people that it's affected. And then also when I was in the police, I saw a few people that had done those things, and it makes you think that people that have full-time jobs that seem to have it all together, and that there are no real markers, or you talk to friends and family and people just didn't see it coming. And then when it happens, you just think, well, you need to really be mindful of where people might be at. Because treating people well and being that person that can be that ship that can navigate in the storm, they can look to you as a leader and somebody that they can follow and ask for help. Because there might be that whole, if people know I've got a mental health problem, or people know I'm struggling, they might look down on me. Those people might, but the people that look up to you are the people that you might save. And that's way more important. You know, at the end of the day, when you're looking back after 80 years of what have I done, who have I helped, that's going to be way more rewarding and beneficial, that that you pulled a few people out of the mud.
It's all about legacy.
Brendo, you got anything bouncing around in that melon of yours?
Well, I mean, it is about legacy, and a few different quotes that I love is, plant trees to grow seeds, to cast shade you won't see. So things you do today, you may never reap the rewards, but it's going to help people, and that's legacy. That's something that's going to stand the test of time. And I heard a really nice saying about well, it's not a nice topic, but about suicide. Suicide doesn't make the pain stop; it just passes it on. So and also, there's also a stigma about going and speaking to a professional. I don't get that. Go speak, if you want to be at the top of the game, it doesn't even matter what field you go. See a doctor to get fit. To get well. You go see a coach to get strong and fit. The most powerful tool we've got is our mind. Why not go speak to someone who's going to help you harness those things? And I've only had a look into it a small amount, and there's this one thing called choice theory in regards to the way I feel is my choice. And all of a sudden, you're no longer a victim. All of a sudden, you've taken ownership on your life. And the only thing you can get from people is information, and it's your choice on how you react to it. And I think that's hugely powerful. And sometimes when I've worked myself up and about things that, in the grand scheme of things, aren't really the biggest thing. Someone cuts you off, that person didn't mean to cut you off.
Yes, they did.
And maybe.
Yeah, well,
and you got to get them.
Yeah, some of them. But like, what's the point of wrecking your day, going home to your family, banging on for 30, 40 minutes about how this guy cut you off? All of a sudden, they're not enjoying their time with you when that person simply just made an error, and they probably feel stupid for what they do. And it's amazing because I've experienced it. The rage and the anger when someone cuts you off, and then that hand goes up, like, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. And you're just like, all right, I've made it. What was I? And then you have that self-reflection, just like, that person never meant to do that. Why was I thinking about, I'm gonna yell at him, I'm gonna pull him over, I'm so angry right now. And you're just like, wow, there's a lot of other things I need to probably sort out rather than like that person doing that. And it's one of those things. If someone can help you lead a better life, then why not do it?
I really like what you said there, Brendan, about a couple of things. First of all was that mentality, and not having that victim mentality was a big thing that was pivotal in my recovery as well. When I changed my mindset from this is really bad that it happened to me, I could have been killed, woe is me, sort of an attitude in my own mind, and going from, well, if you had 30 seconds or a minute in my life that you could victimise me in, I'm not going to let you take up the rest of my time on earth victimising me still. I'm going to get on with my life and make the most of it, and you're just a blip on the radar, basically. Then that was a big step forward for me, and then I was able to, once I got over that and started applying some ACT principles, so the acceptance and commitment therapy, where you do accept that you can't change the past, but you can influence the future. Then that was the right direction for me to go in and start on that recovery.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Thanks for that. Well, I think it's been a good podcast. Was there anything else you wanted to add, Brendan?
No, that's I'm just happy to be a part of it and hear you guys' story, and I think it's great that this message is actually being put out there. It doesn't get spoken out enough. It's something that we should have a conversation a lot more about, and also for our services as well. They need to do something to mitigate this, because at the end of the day, they're losing good people. And that's the thing. It's like, you can have the best people in the world and you don't take care of them, well, then you're not going to have the best people, protecting our streets. Like, you put so much money into people to build them up, well, then take bloody care of them. Like, simple as that. Just take care of them. Like, I'm pretty sure every single taxpayer in the world will have people who protect the streets, more than happy to help fund it. It's if you just turn around and just actually help people and keep the best people that we possibly can, protecting us. Because at the end of the day, when the boogeyman comes to the door, they're the people that we're calling. We want the best of the best, and to take care of them. It's just that.
That's fair enough. And so I just think that I'd like to finish off by saying that if people are struggling, obviously, don't be afraid to call Lifeline. Don't be afraid to call helplines if you feel trapped, because those people are trained to chat to you, even if it's a brief 5-minute conversation when you feel like you're scratching the walls. Give them a call, have a chat to them. I personally have done it. I've had a few scenarios and situations in my life where I just didn't want to talk to people that I knew. I've been able to talk a lot and being able to do a lot of therapy and work through some of my issues. But I've had a few situations where I really felt like I was in struggle town, and I made those phone calls. You see that at the end of these articles on websites and all the rest of it. Give these numbers a call, and it does work in the sense that when you're there and you just feel like there's nothing else to do, that popped into my mind, obviously, because it's been repeated so many times, and I thought, give it a call. And I like wept on the phone, you know what I mean, and they're just there for you, and that was a really good thing for me. And I don't know who that person was, but all I can say is to have them listen to my pain and my concern at that time was just brilliant. So I think that reach out, don't be ashamed ever, and you can be a lot stronger. You can work through this and get to a point where you're in a place that you never thought you could be. Yeah.
Post-traumatic growth.
That's the one.
That's fine.
And also, like, just to go on from that as well, is, you know, getting that help. If you break your arm, you're not going to hope it goes away, are you?
No.
Same with mental illness.
Yeah.
If you get sick mentally, it's not going to go away.
Yeah.
So go and see a professional.
Yeah. Get it to start the healing process, and you'll end up finding that it's the other side of the coin is much brighter and much more beautiful than you could probably imagine at the moment. And okay, well, yeah, thanks for coming down, Jerry, and thanks,
Pleasure.
Brendan.
Thanks,
and
No worries.
look forward to seeing you here again, and we'll train soon and have a good time.
Yep.
All right, that's
Pleasure.
it from us, guys. And remember, reach out if you need some help, and we're always here. Okay, see ya.
So.